I want to talk a little bit
What you
about building fake products. I feel like this was always true, but now the cycle times are so much shorter. The value of build first has just increased dramatically. Build first allows you to create something in a couple of minutes and start using it and start interacting with reality right away. So the podcast timer, countdown timer is a perfect example. In that app, we set up segments, we give it a timer, it counts down. As soon as I introduced that with you and I noticed it added a little bit of anxiety. It's like, oh man, I got time now counting down. So you start to feel a real interaction with the product right away. One of the things I've been talking about on this show forever is, can we at Transistor figure out a way to do video podcast hosting? And it's just such a big, hairy problem. It feels like too much. And then a couple of weeks ago, I said, I'm just going to start building it and see
Hold my beer.
How it feels. And not because I want to build something that's production ready that we're going to just drop into the app, but because for this very reason, I want to start to experience both from the technical implementation side, but even more as a user. What do I run into? What do I want? How does this feel? And in the past, you just could not do this. Just to get to the point I'm at right now, I built a full video podcasting app in a couple days, the first version. And just to get to this point with pretty talented engineers would have taken 6 months, a year, maybe even 2 years.
Ampcast.
It would have taken a long time. But I've got a little app running. This is just a prototype I've built.
So we've got a list of shows. You
can
click into one.
You can connect it to Transistor and import an existing show. So let's say I import Restaurant Success here. And then I can connect it to YouTube, and that works. I've got all the auth and connection to YouTube and everything working. And
what makes it I'm curious, like what makes it a video podcast?
Well, this is what was so helpful is previously I thought the way to do this is we have to do everything. We have to allow people to upload the video to us. We have to encode it use HLS encoding, host it, etc. As I got into this, I started to realize that what people actually want is not that. Basically, they want to upload a video, have it syndicated to YouTube and maybe Spotify video, and then create an audio-only version that syndicates to all the audio platforms. It wasn't until I started working on this that this became very clear, right? So we've been talking, I think, HLS maybe should exist for the nerds, but when I think about 80-90% of people I talk to who are doing podcasting, what do they want? They want to upload one video file. They want it to go to that to get uploaded to Spotify and YouTube as a video episode. And then they want it transcoded and as an audio file and added to Transistor. That's what 80% of people want.
Totally.
And so I didn't experience that. I didn't fully realize that. That was in my brain, but I didn't fully realize that, honestly, until I had it create a breadboard for the different flows. And once I saw the breadboard, I was like, wait a second. And once I'm talking to Claude Code and it's like, yeah, like that HLS video component really adds a lot of complexity to this app.
That's like very similar to my process with any new app. It's like, all right, like here's my concept. I think I want to do it this way, and then you run into things and have back and forth with Claude and
yes.
Yeah. So, and then once you see the views, Well, and there's just so many things that you run into that until you're actually using it, usage has always been oxygen for product realizations, for actually understanding something. So here's another example. In my little prototype, I'm going to click new episode. I'm going to choose a video file.
and it's starting to upload. That uploads to R2. I'm going to just say sample ep for Brian. The other thing I like about this, by the way, is it's allowed me to play with a simple interface again. I even hid a lot of the advanced settings in this expand collapse UI here. But I'm going to click publish episode. This is now uploading to YouTube. That's completed. Now it's extracting the audio. That is processed and completed. If we click here and view it on YouTube, still processing the video, but that will be live right away. And you click on Transistor. YouTube embed has automatically embedded in the share page. The episode is playable. It all happens in one step.
Nice.
So
I mean, that's beautiful.
And here's the other benefit. I've been playing with this. I've been using it.
Especially if you could schedule it.
You can schedule it. I've already got that built in. I'm now showing this to people. So my one buddy, he uploads all the sermons for his church. And he's like, dude, I wish I could just do this in one step. It's taking me so much time to first upload it to YouTube. Then I basically copy and paste the same title, description, etc., over to a podcast host and then do it there. I just want it one stop shop. So I can record a video for him. Eventually he'll be able to use this. And now I'm going to have a real person using it and we'll experience how does this work. Today, for the first time, at Transistor right now, we don't have an uploader that can handle files bigger than a gig. So I had Claude Code build a file uploader that can handle big files. Today, for the Marketing for Developers podcast, this Lars Lofgren interview was 15 gigabytes or something like that. It's like, okay, well, let's see how this system handles a 15 gigabyte video. I'm also going to be tracking the costs now on, the different, like for hosting and for bandwidth and all that stuff. I can test all this stuff out before we implement it in our production product. And I think building fake products is going to, people need to be doing this. This is the way to explore and truly feel and shape the entirety of the problem before you sit down and write a implementation plan for your existing app. This is like, let's figure out everything now. Even something as small as, like, you'll notice this one says private. This is a private podcast. And then as soon as I start using this, because I wanted to publish this episode today, I'm like, wait a second, a private podcast is going to have a different setup than a public podcast. And I'm like, what would I want personally as a user? Well, I might just want it to be an unlisted playlist and unlisted video on YouTube. Can I do that? Yeah. So now, if it's a private podcast, it automatically creates a unlisted playlist on YouTube, publishes an unlisted video. I wouldn't have thought of that beforehand. And all of this reminded me of this great story from FreshBooks. This is a story that Mike McDermott told me ages ago. And I don't know if a lot of people have heard about this, but basically they decided, they had this problem back in, who knows when this was, 2017. They had this problem where they had this mature product, but they wanted to do a full rewrite. And so they decided, they went through a bunch of ideas, but then Mike said, what if we just created a new company and competed with ourselves? A new company could have its own name, brand, logos, website, articles of incorporation, user agreement, service staff. We could use that to figure out if we could build a product that is truly better than the one we're offering. They built so FreshBooks V2 or V3 or whatever it was, they created an entirely different company. And then they built the product ground up from there, got real users using it, had its own pipeline and everything. And then only when it had proven itself with whatever it was, 100 users, 100 paying customers, did they switch it over and have it as the main FreshBooks app. And then
I didn't know that they did that. That's really
I think
really cool. What you're describing, this whole process of, like, you bring a new feature, at least in a concept or a prototype form, like it it dovetails exactly with what we were talking about with Jordan on the recent episode over here a couple weeks ago. It's like, I'm curious to know for you with your team at Transistor, like, how does this going to change the process of bringing new features into Transistor? Like I just, this morning I recorded my next YouTube video, and it's about the Claude integration with Slack. And I, at first I was like, that's okay. It's just a little connector with Slack. That's kind of a nice to have. What's the big deal? And then I saw one of the Claude team members post an article on X about it and how they're using it inside Claude. And I realized, like, oh, there are some real workflow breakthroughs here. And what you were just describing about, like, okay, Transistor is its own thing. It's well-established code base. It's got this whole user base on it. Like, you can't just like change course or ship features like in a day, like you can with a vibe coded thing.
Yeah.
But what they're doing at Anthropic apparently is, in Slack, you can, like, with the Slack connector to Claude Code, anyone on the team, marketers, product people, go-to-market, sales, anyone can @message Claude and kick off a Claude Code project, and then Claude Code goes and works on it and creates a PR to the actual code base. So that's an interesting product process workflow for teams, right? So it's like, instead of vibe coding a prototype, which is very different and new and shiny and separate from what your actual code base is, like, anyone can pull off a branch and vibe and essentially vibe code, not even vibe code, but like, at least just start.
Yeah.
Like what if we add a video uploading feature to our existing code base? What would that look like? And could we achieve this? Is that even technically possible? Anyone, like, obviously it'll depend on your own team's, like, strategy and workflow, but you or anyone on your team could essentially @message Claude and at least start a PR. This isn't going to ship tomorrow, but at least it's something that it's like, oh, this is technically possible, and like it could, or we will run into these technical challenges of it. Like, now we understand that, and then the engineering team can take a look at it, and it doesn't even necessarily have to be like a code review challenge. That could just be the V1 of this, or like a draft version of this feature, so that the engineer can see, like, oh, okay, I see what the product team is going for here.
Yeah.
Let me rebuild this properly so that it's ready for prime time. But, like, that's a much higher fidelity vision than like a wireframe or even a vibe coded prototype that's separate. Like, if it's a PR off of your real code base, you know.
I think we're going to do both. I mean, we're still stepping into this carefully.
Yeah.
I think we're going to do both. For this particular project, it made sense to do it separate because we needed a separate R2 bucket. I don't want to use what Transistor already has. There's a bunch of things that I just wanted to keep separate because this involves a lot more moving pieces.
So you're going to rebrand to Ampcast.
I mean, there is a world in which we go, you know what? We don't want to add this to Transistor. We're going to rebuild it as a separate thing. Maybe a video first podcasting app. That could be true. I think also the being able to have something that I can hand over to my friend who's working at this church, and have a limited subset of people actually using this workflow and just running into everything that could happen with usage, taking all those notes and then using that to implement that in the main app. I think that's the other piece. And then the other thing is just being able to see, I've also connected it to the YouTube Analytics API and the Transistor Analytics API. And so now I have a view of YouTube views versus audio downloads.
Sweet.
And so being able to do that in its own space and show it to people, show it to different users, friends of mine that I know are actual real podcasters, and eventually getting them to use it, I think there's just a real benefit to that. And yeah, then using everything we learn to inform what we're doing with Transistor. The other reason to do it outside of your regular app is this also led me to it's still a Rails app on the back end, but I said on the front end, I don't care what you use. You can use whatever you think is best, Claude Code.
Yeah.
And we had when we built the Transistor app, we had some strong opinions about how much JavaScript we were going to use, what kind of JavaScript libraries we're going to use.
Totally.
I wanted to go and run with scissors,
strip it all away,
a little bit.
Fresh start. I mean, yeah, like I really see a night and day experience between literally apps that I started the code base 6 months ago or earlier, and apps that began within the past 3 to 6 months.
Yeah.